Okay, so we're looking ahead to game week 6, and we'll let you know what are the best fixtures to target in this game week, which are the best captaincy options. So Greg, last week we put your model to the ringer to determine which will be the best fixtures, which will be the best captaincy options. Obviously, we can't account for all the human factors that come through, like Manchester City drawing against Southampton, for example. But at least it's helped us with our captaincy. Salah was the best captaincy option in the game last week. We came through there, unless you went with left field options like Salah or someone like that there. So yeah, to kick off our game week 6, big clash, Chelsea versus Man City. We will probably get to see what Chelsea are really about here as well. So what you make of this one?
I mean, it's going to be an absolute clash of the Titans, and I think these top four, I think the top four is going to be extremely close this year. We've spoken about it before. City, Chelsea, Liverpool, United. It's going to be coming down to these sort of fixtures. Who takes the title, in my opinion. So this is the cracker, because everyone wants to jump on Chelsea after this fixture, and possibly we're making a mistake by not having Chelsea defenders already, and realizing just how good their defense is. But yeah, I think for me it's going to be a low scoring game. I think both defenses are extremely good. I think it'll be sort of very few goals in the game. I think I've got Lukaku. I don't have any other City players personally, but you can't not play them. Those guys are just all too good. So yeah, I don't think it's where you're going to pick your captain, but I think it's going to be a cracker to start the game week for sure.
So possible 0-0 over there.
I think very possible 0-0. I think very possible 1-1 as well. 1-0, 1-1. I think that's where we're going to be sort of seeing the results come out. I'd be surprised if we see a high scoring game. I think both teams have a lot more to lose than they do to gain. City, I think, will be happy with a draw. Chelsea potentially happy with a draw. So I think, for me, low scoring for sure.
So there might be a situation where they effectively shake on a 0-0 or a draw effect,
something like that.
Remember last season when I think was it City when Liverpool travelled to the Etihad, and then the first half was quite end-to-end. It was 1-1, and then City missed a penalty, and the second half both teams just retreated and ended up with the situation where it's almost like they shook on the draw and they were like, okay, we're fine, we're happy with this.
We'll just pass the ball around the back until time runs out, type of thing. It's good. For me, the most interesting part is going to actually be to see if Alonso plays for Chelsea, because he's been so incredibly attacking. It'll be interesting to see if he makes the starting lineup for this team. I think it's going to be, when is he not going to play? Because he's so good against the weaker teams and so attacking. If anything, this would be the game that he might be rested, and they might go for a really, really solid, sort of back four, back five. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be keeping my eyes open on the Chelsea lineup.
I just hope Reece James plays. That's all. I need him to play and get me some points in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all.
He's another one, because if he doesn't play for a second game in a row, suddenly you start to question whether, how much game time is he going to get.
Definitely. Yeah, but definite crack over there, and also made better that, maybe it's an opportunity for revenge from Man City. But on the other hand, for the Champions League final, but on the other side of it is that Chelsea have a very good record over City, not just recently, but over the last 4 or 5 years. So that also adds quite a dynamic to this fixture as well.
Yeah, it's a game I'm really looking forward to as a football fan.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like you said, no real captaincy picks from there. Quite obvious on that one. Maybe just stack up on defenders there, I suppose. But the next one, Manchester United versus Villa, which is so rare to have two effectively, 1:30 games for us, but effectively lunchtime kickoffs happening at the same time. But Manchester United play Villa at the same time, which it seems like a bit of a scheduling mix-up over there. They probably just want to have Ronaldo on TV, so they made the kickoff earlier.
Well, I don't know who's going to be watching that game, because I must be honest, you know, given Chelsea City or United versus Villa, I'm certainly going to be watching the Chelsea City game. But I think it should be an easy game for United. You know, they've looked really good this season, and certainly a captaincy option that pops up out of that game. Ronaldo has got to be the guy that you are considering.
I thought you were going to say Danny Ings and.
Yeah, I think the Villa options are not in my mind at all, and I'm hoping that Shaw can actually bring some points, because I think he's been quite disappointing this season from an FPL return perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I also I wildcarded him out of my team. I got in James. And I was like, okay, fine. You know, Shaw got a clean sheet wipeout. And I was like, okay, maybe now James has a chance to get some points, and he didn't play. But, you know, I agree with you. I think Shaw's looked really good. He's got, you know, you can see, like, even where was it, the game against Southampton, I think, where they didn't keep a clean sheet, but he got 2 bonus points. Which I think was quite spectacular. But he looks good for attacking returns. He still looks like a bonus points magnet. But yeah, the inability to keep clean sheets does really affect you when you have somebody in your defense who's 5.5 million.
Yeah, exactly. It's an expensive asset, so you need, in a game like this, you need those clean sheets, you need those attacking returns. So I mean, I'm happy as a Shaw owner having him for this game for sure. Just hoping I can actually get some points now before I lost, because I'm looking at Shaw out probably next week to bring in some, you know, probably Alonso at this stage over James.
Yeah, that seems like the logical move at the moment as well, especially if Alonso continues playing. Then yeah, it just looks like, and it looks like Thomas Tuchel really rates Alonso, and he's been playing him in most games since he's become manager anyway. So I think that is, look, there's no player that's ever fixture proof, but I think Alonso is a good option if you're looking for somebody who's at least going to play 80-90% of games as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then that's an interesting one. I think it's fairly obvious that, you know, a lot of people will be looking to captain Ronaldo there as well. I'm kind of like, you know, we'll get to that just now, I suppose, when we discuss Liverpool's fixture. But I'm still kind of debating, you know, whether I want Salah or Ronaldo as captain going into this week. But quite a nice fixture coming up next. If you maybe own Demarai Gray or someone like that, or maybe possibly Richarlison, is Everton versus Norwich.
Yeah, I think Calvert-Lewin's going to be out still. I haven't seen the updated news. Right. But we'll watch that obviously with the press conferences later in the week. But yeah, it's interesting. Gray is certainly an outside shout as a captaincy option. He's actually here in 7th in my model for the game week, and it's only really behind Liverpool players and Antonio, obviously Ronaldo as well. But so that gives you a shot that your options are Salah, Ronaldo, Antonio, and then it's Gray. So if you're looking for sort of a differential captain option, I think he's a good shot against Norwich.
Differential triple captain, even if you're really feeling spicy.
Yeah, that's some extra spice right there. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so like I said, when I brought in, I looked at this fixture and I thought, wow, that's going to be quite an interesting one. And part of my wildcard as well was looking at it, thinking, okay, Gray coming in, not a bad option considering the fixtures as well. Yeah,
he looks. I mean, this is the game that I think the model was definitely looking to bring him in. You've got United next, and then West Ham. Watford's a good one, but then Wolves, and then Spurs. So this is the fixture that you want Everton player for.
Yeah, exactly, and then Norwich. I'm not going to even speak about them at the moment because it's like
not applicable.
You're not applicable unless you wanted. Unless you're waiting for the Pookie party and then you got in on it last week.
Yes, which was quite cool. The model actually had him quite high last week. I had him as an outside shot for points, but the problem is he's never going to be one of those long-term shots that you
No,
can have in your team
exactly.
for 6 weeks or more.
Yeah, it'd definitely be one of those if you're playing like a free hit or something, and they have a good fixture, then you can bring him in. But apart from that, over there, you're not going to really consider, because you'll end up being saddled with these players, like we were speaking about Wolves in the previous episode as well.
Yeah.
And it just does. They're a non-entity at the moment. And then next up is quite an interesting fixture for me: Leeds versus West Ham. Now, Leeds, we were talking about them a little bit. They still look decent attacking wise, and West Ham haven't looked that great defensively. I mean, have they even kept a clean sheet? I think they might have just kept one, if I'm not mistaken. But West Ham, on the other hand, Mikel Antonio, FPL legend, is back in the game. I don't have him. I really would like to have him, but I don't want to. I won't call it waste my transfer, but I'm trying to be diligent about it at the moment. But like at 7.9 million, I could easily just swap him out for Brentford and then I'm done. But that's an interesting one. So what you make of this fixture over here?
I think this one's goals.
For both sides or just one side?
No, I think for both. I think, I've got them at both at 1.5 predicted goals. So, I'm expecting 3-4 goals at minimum in this game. They both seem to be defensively quite poor. They both seem to be scoring goals. I think West Ham more so than Leeds at the moment, but Leeds are creating a lot of chances. And I think if as an attacking owner of any of those players, you're going to be very happy. I've got Rafinha and I've got Antonio, and I'm very happy going into that fixture with those two. I think you've got Ben Rama. I think you've got, obviously Bamford's up there. There's nothing else to say other than this could be a firecracker.
Yeah, look, I wish I had a West Ham player in, because obviously as part of my wildcard I took them out. But, well, in Antonio's case specifically. But I've got Bamford and Rafinha, so I'm hoping that they can cover for it. But if anything happens, they might be, if I decide to make a transfer, that will be the one I'll do, is probably to take out Bamford and put in Antonio. So I covered both Leeds and West Ham side. But if I do that type of transfer, obviously I wouldn't be doing it for one fixture. Someone like Antonio, I'd want him for a longer period of time anyway.
Yeah, I kept him through the suspension last week just because of that, because his outlook just looks so good. His numbers are so impressive, and as long as he stays fit, I think you're going to be find it very difficult to watch West Ham games without having Antonio in your team. No,
definitely. Like if I wasn't wildcarding, I would have definitely kept him in my team and played an extra defender or whatever it is, because I wouldn't have seen the logic of transferring him out just to look to try and get him back in. It would feel like a waste to transfer.
Yeah.
But because I was wildcarding, it's very difficult. It's almost like I strategically put specific players like Bamford almost like placeholders, like what I did with Ronaldo to Lukaku, for example, where I kept specific, I had a specific team structure in mind, and I said, okay, these are like almost my placeholders. So if it doesn't work out, it's easy for me to move to other players within that price bracket as well. And Antonio was one of the big reasons, apart from Ronaldo to Lukaku. Antonio was one of the big ones as well for me, because I can either choose to move from Bamford to Antonio, or if I free up that money when I move from Ronaldo to Lukaku, whenever I do so, then I have the extra to also maybe move Raul Jimenez to Antonio as well, which actually probably makes more sense as well.
Yeah, I think that looks like the move at the moment. I think Bamford's stats are still very, very good.
Yeah.
Which is crazy considering, when he started last year, and everyone was sort of laughing as at people that had him in their teams, but his
people
numbers
were
are very
remembering
good.
from Middlesbrough days from a few years ago, like what a waste.
Yeah, and his numbers are really good, and Leeds are creating chances, so I would keep Bamford and look to rotate Jimenez out, because Wolves have certainly been very poor.
Yeah, sure, they definitely fully agree over there. And then looking at the next one is Leicester and Burnley. Now, I was so frustrated with that penalty that Leicester conceded, because in my opinion it was not a penalty. I don't know if you saw it, but Vestergaard was being pulled down in the box. And then I mean, come on, man. Wasn't even in balance, and then he handballed, and and that was effectively the clean sheet wipeout right there. But I was like just hoping, please save it, because I brought in Schmeichel on my wild card, and well, he didn't save it, and then Brighton went and scored again. But Schmeichel did make 3 saves, so I've got the 1 extra point, I suppose. So I take some solace in there. But a fixture against Burnley is not a bad one to look to be keeping a clean sheet there, because Burnley have not been great as well.
Yeah, Leicester are 41%, which is pretty high to keep a clean sheet in that game. So I think you should be on a good wicket there for a clean sheet. But Leicester haven't looked great this season. They've really lacked sort of any oomph in their performances. So I think it's time for them this game. I think they need to start turning it on. But 41% is very good. So I think you'll be happy as a Schmeichel owner. And I'm not targeting any Leicester players at the moment. They just haven't really shown any value yet.
Yeah, look, I'm happy with. I won't say happy, but for Leicester defenders, I'm okay with it, because I think they will collect the odd 0-0 and something like that here or there. But it's the attackers that just don't appeal to me at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, other than Vardy, who's just your mainstay, you can always count on him to bring the goals. But
but he's just too
difficult at that price.
well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, I think there's again, it's one of those fixtures like. It's just not. I'm going to be watching the Leeds West Ham fixture.
yeah. And then Watford and Newcastle. Now, the interesting one is that you're looking at the Leeds and Newcastle game, which was so open-ended, and then looking at how Watford demolished Norwich. This actually kind of leaves me thinking that this could be quite the entertaining fixture, but I just don't know who would win it.
Yeah, this also looks like it's going to be a pretty close game, and also looks like there could be quite a few goals in it. St. Maximin's looked amazing for Newcastle. Salah was great last week for Watford, so I think it could be another one of those high-scoring fixtures. Not quite Leeds West Ham, but I think the model's got it at I think 2.8 goals predicted for the game, with Watford slightly edging it out. So. Yeah, I think you'll be happy if you've got some action going there. I think not many people have players from those teams.
Unless a lot of people still have Emmanuel Dennis as an enabler, budget enabler. Some people maybe have Salah from early on, and their patience would have been rewarded as well. But with Newcastle, I suppose I don't think Callum Wilson's back yet, right? So
that's another one we're going to have to be waiting injury news on, because his stats are also phenomenal, and I think if he's back, I mean, it's certainly a guy I think you should consider. He is head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to sort of the bottom 10 teams in terms of goal scoring ability.
He definitely looks like the best goal scorer out there at the end of the table. But St. Maximin at 6.7 looks a really, really great option, and I mean, it's a good price as well. And the other part of it is that when you're playing FPL and you have certain players who are so exciting to watch as well, they just give you that extra incentive to want to have them in your team as well.
Yeah, he looks exciting, but I feel like he's possibly a bit of a trap.
I think so too. As well.
I would be waiting for Wilson to get back, and I think he'll create a lot for Wilson. I think that's where the real value lies.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's when his assist potential will go up as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the one that I want to talk about, Liverpool and Brentford. So Liverpool go to Brentford. Brentford have the second lowest expected goals conceded at the moment. Brilliant start to the season for them. They absolutely schooled Wolves. The way they managed the game, they frustrated Wolves to their core. They were a bit of shithouses as well, to be honest with you. They were frustrating Wolves no end in that game. But now they're probably going to have their biggest test of the season with, definitely the biggest test of the season so far, coming up against the team who could effectively double that expected goals conceded numbers by the ending of the week. And even if they don't double it, you could back Salah to score from some ridiculous angles and end up leave Brentford's expected goals conceded in a good condition, but the actual numbers could end up being a mess.
Yeah, I think people are considering not captaining Salah because of how good those numbers are, and I think it's a mistake. The model's has got all that data in it, and Liverpool are still way ahead of this week at 1.9 predicted goals, and Salah's numbers are just insane. The man is insane. Like he is so far ahead of even Ronaldo in terms of predictions for this game week. He's going to be my captain for sure, and I think it would be a mistake not to do that.
No, I agree, and I think when we start thinking of not captaining Salah and looking at captaining someone else, then I think it almost where it becomes a thing where you want to try and be maybe different for the sake of it, or trying to overthink it, or being a bit too clever about it. But sometimes you just got to look at it in face value and look at which of your premiums has the best fixture, and just captain them and not think about it too much.
Yeah, and it's something that I always remember from past seasons is how fixture proof forwards are. And even when you talk about you're up against a good defense, when you've got the top guys in your team as forwards, they are they just tend to be fixture proof. And even when they're playing the Cities and the Chelseas and the really good defenses, they just seem to score. They have this knack to do that, and certainly against Brentford, I'm not going to be too concerned about their recent figures, and I'm just going to stick my armband on Salah.
Yeah, I think me too. I have been throwing it out there, on the pod, and we were talking about it offline as well. But I think deep down, I know that I'm probably just going to stick with Salah anyway.
Yeah, it does make the game a lot more fun as a Liverpool supporter as well.
Yeah,
having Salah captain.
It does, yeah. Especially this past weekend as well was exactly one of those, Yeah, and then the next one that's quite interesting is Southampton and Wolves. Now, we've spoken about Southampton a bit in the previous episode. We've spoken about Wolves. So without going in too much into detail back on there again, Wolves have been just, probably one of the biggest frauds in the game so far. I just don't know what to make of them. And now all of a sudden, with someone like Livramento coming into the picture, a lot of people, will have him as an enabler at the moment. And Southampton have just been really, really so well defensively organized against good attacking teams like Manchester United, like City and West Ham in the process. So looking at this over here, I mean, I have a situation now where I've got Romain Saïss in my starting 11 and Livramento as first option on my bench, but I'm seriously considering just switching it around, getting Livramento into my starting 11. But I have this nagging doubt that someone like Saïss is also a bonus points magnet as well at times when Wolves keep a clean sheet.
And he's got that attacking potential, but in this game, I mean, the model's really basically spot on with what my thinking would have been, on a just looking at the past performances. But it's got them both at 1.2 predicted goals for game week 6, which is incredibly low. So I think this fixture really has 0-0 written all over it, and they're both. So I mean, Southampton's at 34% for a clean sheet, and Wolves at 36%. So very high clean sheet probabilities, very low predicted goal probabilities. It's way lower than even the City Chelsea game. So I think if ever there's going to be a 0-0, this really does have the right.
No, definitely does have it, because even looking at the respective attacks from those teams as well, they've looked so blunt for most of the games as well so far that I wouldn't really tip them to go and get, or all of a sudden just for one team to just haul in this game. Yeah. And also looking at that fixture specifically, I have, I see Bamford and Rafinha as flagged, which I probably think they'll play. But, usually you'll think, okay, you know what, maybe I must keep an eye on a potential transfer. And if someone like Bamford is out, I mean, that's easy. Just go to Antonio, But looking at Rafinha specifically, because of the fact that both sides and Livramento have such high probability of clean sheet, I'd probably just be tempted to go and play a 4-3-3. Easy 4-3-3. Yes, 4-3-3 because of that over there as well.
Yeah, if he's out, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
I think your expectation for wasting a transfer or using a transfer that you don't need to is probably going to be lower than just holding onto a guy like Rafinha that you want to use later on. He's a great long-term hold, and if the injury is minor, I mean, if the injury is serious and they come out in the press conferences and say he's out for a few weeks, that's a different story.
Yeah,
when they come out and if he comes out and said he's 50-50 for the game or something, then you've got that bench option where Livramento off the bench might just work again.
And with somebody like Rafinha, I suppose, if you within that price bracket, if you want to go for someone like Benrahma as well, then it's a straight swap as well.
Yeah, that's an option. I think if you don't have Gray, I think that's the real easy option with Norwich this week.
Yeah.
So, there are options at that price point, which also makes your decisions quite easy.
Yeah, and then probably one that this might be a potential decider for the UEFA Conference League spot or whatever they call it. Arsenal and Spurs. Now, looking at those two teams, they've been so poor. Like, Spurs have the lowest XG by far in the game this season. They look so blind. Even when they were winning their first three games, they just looked absolutely devoid of any creativity or whatever. They were really relying on feeding off scraps like players like Son and so on. And then Arsenal kind of like now they have a chance to probably get a result against a team that's not Norwich or Burnley or something like that. What do you make of this fixture over here?
I mean, it just seems like an absolutely boring London derby, which is something
do you
that we
ever see it as a 0-0? Like,
I think there's potential. I mean, Arsenal and Spurs have both looked so poor attacking wise this whole season. The model's also thereabouts with Arsenal at 1.5 predicted goals and Spurs at 1.3. So it's low scoring. The probabilities are pretty high that it's going to be a draw. Their clean sheet probabilities aren't through the roof. So I think this one's probably looking in like a 1-1. Odds on for a 1-1 type result, but it just doesn't inspire you. It's not a game that you can't wait to watch this weekend, which is quite sad for a London derby.
Yeah, it does feel quite disappointing. I must say that that should be one of the flagship games of the weekend, and we're not really that interested in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then last up on Monday is Crystal Palace and Brighton, which is actually a rivalry. So Crystal Palace, look, I must say they actually gave Liverpool a game. I mean, the results, if you look at Liverpool winning 3-0 against Leeds and then 3-0 against Crystal Palace, it's easy to look at the score and think, wow, Liverpool battered them. But Crystal Palace compared to Leeds actually gave Liverpool quite a game.
Yeah, we've been surprised by how good Crystal Palace have been under Patrick Vieira. And they look a lot more defensively sound.
I didn't expect it, to be fair, because looking at how Patrick Vieira has done in his managerial career before he's got here, I kind of didn't. I kind of actually thought that they might be really candidates for relegation right now.
Yeah, no, he's done well, but I think this looks like another. There seem to be a few of them this week where this might be another watching paint dry fixture, where the predicted goals are low for both teams. The clean sheet probabilities are quite high. Brighton are at 39% for a clean sheet. Crystal Palace at 31%. So this also has 0-0 written all over it. So there are going to be some real boring fixtures, it looks like, this week.
Yeah, so just on that alone, Sunday fixtures all seem 0-0. So just write it off. Monday as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 0-0, 1-1, and 0-0 for Sunday, Monday. So after Saturday, maybe stop watching the football. Yeah, look, it'll be interesting one, and hopefully, we were talking about it, the fact that
there's been these massively high scoring weeks, which seems almost literally every week. So game week 5, the average points was 55. The previous week it was 57, game week 3 was 54, game week 2 was 56, and game week 1 was 69, which is absolutely ridiculous for a single game week. So just looking at that alone, every week seems to be there seems to be something in it for everyone every week in some way, shape or form. And it'll be nice to have, I want to call it normality for a change.
Yeah, it all depends on. I think in sort of some of these weeks, guys have been picking up a lot of clean sheet points and sort of defensive attacking returns. So it'll be interesting. In a lot of these games, there are a lot of low scoring fixtures where no one's really got much action involved, many players involved in these fixtures. So it might just be, a case of the Chelsea City fixture is going to be interesting because a lot of people have City and Chelsea players, and when they're playing each other, often what ends up is, if you've got 2 or 3 of both team, the majority of your team playing on one fixture is never a fun thing, and that usually ends badly for you in a game week. So it'll be interesting to see how balanced teams are, because this could certainly expose some teams that aren't balanced too well.
It's good that you mentioned the thing about balance, because I've seen a few teams where the previous week in game week 4 they were hitting like 80 points or something because they had like Ronaldo, Lukaku and Salah in their teams. One of them was the captain, and then obviously they all hauled in that weekend, so great stuff. And then they went from having those massive game weeks to like barely hitting like mid 40s or something like that over there, which just does. So I suppose that's a flaw when using that type of strategy of going so premium heavy and then relying on players like Bissouma and to be in your starting 11. And look, I suppose in this specific weekend somebody like Livramento paid off, but when you're talking about relying on these players week after week, to be loading up your team with like 4.5, midfielders and so on, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's going to catch up on you. You're going to have massive variance. You're going to have awesome weeks when your premiums perform, and you're going to have some really bad weeks when they don't. And it's basically working out whether that's going to, over 10 game weeks, is that going to be to your advantage or your disadvantage? And it all comes down to those premiums performance. If they perform well enough in the good weeks, then sometimes you're going to have those bad weeks and you can shake them off. But it makes it quite a roller coaster as a manager.
Yeah, look, and I also like to do it over 10 weeks to say, okay, how many points have I actually lost? Because I actually work it out in blocks of 2. So I say, okay, well, over 2 games, how much am I expecting to average? So if I score 80 in one week and 40 in the other week, okay, fine. It's 120 points, which means I'm averaging 60. But technically speaking, you want to be targeting that 65, 70 mark. And if you aren't getting that per week, you're talking about losing roughly like maybe 5 points a week, and over 10 game weeks, that's 50 points.
Yeah, it's almost like this slow decline that you have that you're not even aware of when your team is lacking a bit of depth.
Yeah. And that is exactly why going back to talking about me wanting that 7th attacker in my team and not wanting to have the 4 defenders all the time is because when I calculated it in isolation, I was doing well. Like during those game weeks, I started off with like 100 points on game week 1, then 71 in game week 2, and another 71 in game week 3. But I feel like every time I was looking at it and thinking, okay, if I had that one extra attacker, it's costing me like 6 points or 5 points or 7 points or whatever it is. And if I start adding that up over a 10 game week period, let's call it 5 points. That's like 50 points lost right over there that I'm kind of like, sacrificing every week just because I want one extra premium in my team.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think the key is to take a look. I mean, if you haven't already, take a look at the fixture ticker that I post on Twitter. I'm so far last season I think it was 98% accurate in terms of predicting goals and in the right, classifying fixtures in the right way. This season there have been 140 goals scored so far. 134 goals scored so far, and the models predicted 140. And interestingly enough, for the very good defensive fixtures, there have been 11 fixtures that have been classified as very good for defenses, and 10 of those have been clean sheets. So it really is picking up how to move around your team, and when you're trying to balance a team, that becomes key, because then you want to rotate players, and you want to have really target the good fixtures for whether it's for your attackers or your defenders.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of the things that I kept in mind when building my wildcard team as well, where at times it was like initially, for example, like I had Jota in my team and I had Ferran Torres.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it and I thought, okay, well, you know what, do I really want this combo or where? And then I decided to go for the combination of Rafinha and Grealish. And when I did that, it was actually not comparing like Grealish and Jota, because I feel like Jota would probably outscore Grealish, but I was actually comparing the two City players versus Jota and Rafinha. Because I know that Jota and Rafinha would probably play a little bit more, maybe, I don't know, but it was looking to see from the City players, who do I feel will actually outscore each other, and then between Jota and Rafinha, who will outscore each other. Now I think that Jota would outscore Rafinha, but I think that Grealish would outscore Torres, and that's what actually swung it in my favor, where in favor of going Grealish and Rafinha, because I feel that combo will get me the better results over the long term.
Yeah, I think Grealish has been one of the unnoticed players this season. He hasn't scored a ton of points, but his stats are still pretty good, and I think he seems to be getting a lot of minutes for the City team. And I think if that continues, I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of the top scorers for City come the end of the season.
Yeah, well, they don't have any strikers to score, so it may as well be him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, all the best for Gameweek 6. Maybe something resembling normality for us. Hopefully now we can actually, not expected points, but actual points for a change would be quite nice. And then, we'll catch up next week.
Perfect. Have a good one.